Well, welcome back. It's been a little while. This is currently my vacation time of the year, so I do some shop projects that maybe aren't necessarily pinball related, but things that I've been wanting to do. It's a crisp, cool fall morning. No, it's not. It's actually Memorial Day weekend in Pennsylvania, which feels a lot like a crisp, cool fall morning this year. So this is a good day to work in the shop. So I think what we're going to do today is I've been wanting to build a paint booth, a small hobby paint booth to have in the corner of my garage. And now that I have a laser and I had to have some dust collection, I shouldn't say dust, fume extraction, now is a great time to do both projects. So I came up with an idea, and let's check it out. So I have this area here that I've cleared out, and this is right here is a 36-inch wide by 18-inch deep rack that I got from the restaurant store. Right now it's just general storage, but I think right there is where I'm going to stick a small paint booth, because it's quite handy because I have my laser right here, which requires the fume extraction to be set up. So I'm actually dropping that out of the ceiling and having that all in the attic. So I have an 8-inch centrifugal fan mounted in the attic that's going to blow out through an exhaust port in the attic. Keep everything out of the way. My shop is small enough to begin with, so the more of that I can keep out of there, the better. I actually have my vacuum cleaner already installed up there, and I have a remote switch for that, and it goes into a dust deputy setup. So I can just empty that bucket out every so often. Saves me a ton of room in the shop. Like I said, I don't have much to give up here to begin with. So with that in mind, that's kind of why I designed this the way I did it. I got a dust port right back here on the back side of this laser. So I'm just going to wire it off where it comes out of the ceiling, have 2 gates, and everything should be pretty well self-contained right there. So I sat down here and came up with a plan. So I just want something basic, but I want it to not be a piece of junk. So I made it pretty robust. The finished size is going to be about 32 by 18 by 18. But I wanted to design something that I could make kind of a downdraft booth as opposed to a side exit. Right now, you saw where I was at. My exhaust has to come out the left-hand side. So by utilizing a filter setup, I didn't want to just go straight out the left-hand side. So I designed a booth with a baffle in it to hopefully direct the air downward. And I also 3D printed connectors. So think of this as like connects and plywood to create this project. Now you're going to say to yourself, well, I could just build one of these out of wood and you know, cut all these blocks on my table saw and nail it all. Yes, you could. But I didn't feel like getting my table saw out, and I like 3D printing stuff, and I thought this would be a cool thing to design. And you wouldn't have to usually use these pieces for a paint booth. As you can see, the pieces are actually going to connect the plywood together. So you could actually make like a box out of this. You can make all kinds of stuff out of these connectors that I designed. Here's the corner pieces. So yes, you could do it cheaper, easier maybe out of plywood, but it wouldn't be as cool. So let's take a look at how we're going to build this, and hopefully you'll see that it's as cool as I think it's going to be. You can see I have a 14 by 14 regular old furnace filter that I'm going to incorporate, and I have a 24-inch long light that's going to go in there as well. The way it sits, uses about 3 spools of filament. I usually just use the bamboo filament. I have 2 bamboo printers. I actually have 3 bamboo printers. The bamboo filament seems to work very well for me. And if you buy it on the bulk discount, it's really pretty competitive to everybody else when they have their sales. So it just seems to work. But I will say this, if you're fairly new to printing, I have found that their PLA settings are a little conservative as far as the temperatures go. I believe they want you to be at 55 on the bed for the engineering plate and 120 C at the nozzle. I bumped those up to 60 at the bed and 130 at the nozzle, and I have a lot better results. I don't have any adhesion issues then. I don't need brims most of the time. So that's something to keep in mind. It's going to probably vary depending on your location. I'm like 50 feet above sea level, and I don't have like perfect humidity control in here, so I do try and keep the filament dry, but those could be factors as well. But I just found that bumping up the temperature a little bit helps a lot with getting strong parts, and they don't pull off the bed. So let's take a look at how we're going to build this. So I'm using 3/8 plywood. It's probably a little bit overkill, but I had a bunch laying around. I'm thinking I might upload a separate set of these brackets that will work for like 1/4 inch or the wand, which is what, like 8 millimeters or something. Let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see. I could probably pretty easily upload a set of these for different thicknesses, but the 3/8, I think at Lowe's it says 312 actual, which is 5/16, but it comes out to 3/8, you know, just shy of 3/8. So that's the material you're looking for if you're going to basically copy what I'm doing. The way these brackets work is you put your piece of wood in here, and then you can screw it together using some number 8 by 5/8 flathead wood screws. And basically you just go around, put these pieces together, and you're gonna have a nice framed wooden box. Now, in my case, I'm not gonna paint the wood because basically all the sides are pretty much covered up. But you can make this look pretty fancy and paint the wood beforehand if you want. But that's the whole gist of this, is we're gonna use a whole bunch of these corner connectors. And then I also have connectors for the baffle that's gonna go inside. And I also have pieces made to hold up your screen in the bottom of the painting area, okay? And these pieces here are gonna go together and form a box, and it's gonna hold your air filter. And then we're also gonna attach the baffle that gets the air out of the box to this as well. So I have drawings listed. I'm gonna put a link to those on this video. It has a cut list for your plywood, and it'll have a drawing showing each side of the box, what piece goes where. I've actually, see if we can get that there. I have all the pieces lettered when you print them out. So it's gonna be fairly easy. Like this is part B. So you can just follow the little drawings that I made up in SolidWorks, and should be pretty easy for you. Now, when you cut these panels, you don't necessarily need a table saw. To be honest, what I did is right out of the back of the truck, I clamped on a piece of straight wood. I marked everything out, clamped a piece of wood on, and just used a small circular saw to chop these out. Because you're going to cover up all the edges. As long as the dimensions are good, you should be fine. So like, you know, do what you want there, but really, this is one of those jobs that you don't have to be super duper precise with, which is nice. So I gave this a lot of thought because you can kind of paint yourself in a corner when you're building a box like this. No pun intended. I think the best course of attack is to assemble the 4 long outside pieces without any of the end pieces on, and then we're going to slide the ends on last. And that'll also help us build the baffle at the same time, because that internal baffle, you won't be able to put that in very easily once you have everything assembled. So first things first, start out with your corners, and what you want to do is not screw the corners in right now. We want to put all the pieces in the middle on the top and the bottom, and our baffle track, which you'll be able to see in the drawings where that goes. It's pretty self-explanatory, but you have This piece here is a smaller version of the corner with a cutout. You want to make sure that goes up against the end. And then you have three of these pieces that go down through. So you're going to use this as a spacer, screw this one in, and then work your way down through. And then we're going to do the same on the bottom. Make sure this notch lines up with the one on the bottom, because this is your baffle space, and your bracket that holds the baffle goes right here. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these together. I'm not going to bore you with that, but we'll fast forward through and come back again for the next part. Okay. Okay, now we can flip this over, and we have these tracks. Keep in mind these tracks, I think, are two different lengths. Part L and part M. That's M. Here's part L. So there's two part L's here. And what you want to keep in mind, I actually have these backwards. See how the countersink is on one side and there's just a hole for the other? You want to keep the countersink towards the open inside, because that's going to make it easier if you got to access these screws later. So make sure that those countersinks are this way. And what you can do to line all this up is put a couple screws up here, and then we're going to take a piece of scrap to line this part up. Let's drop this piece of scrap in here, and that'll keep us nice and straight there to put the last 4 screws in. Take this out now. There we go. Now I can put the next piece in. And if you have to, you can tap these in place a little bit, but you want to make sure that your end is even. So I'm just going to use my little rubber mallet here. Get that pretty even, and I'm going to tap that in place. And I'm going to screw together the backside. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this around so you guys can see it better. So now the baffle's over here. We're going to put our next corner pieces on over here, making sure that we have the special one for the baffle oriented correctly. Now I flipped it over here. This is where you're going to use part M. Part M is slightly shorter. It's basically the same as part L, but with the width of this piece taken off. So you're going to want to align the same way. Use a piece of scrap. It's getting a little harder to show you what's going on here, but basically we're just going to keep going here. Drop your next side in. Tap this down. Let's make sure your ends are straight, or even with the next piece. And then we'll go ahead and screw this one in. Okay. Next, we're going to, this will be a little trickier, we're going to have to do this vertically. We're going to put the baffle on a third side for the baffle holder, and then we're going to install the baffle. And that'll tie everything together. Again, these are part L again. I think the better course of attack here is to actually pull this off. And I think what we'll do is slide this side in, attach this piece. We'll run this side on, slide this piece into here, and then we'll drop this side down onto the box, and that'll complete the outside. So this is the orientation this piece will go if we put this piece directly on top of the box. So what I'm going to do is set this last side up here. Okay, we'll take this off. Now we can finish setting this in place. And we should be able to slide this in. Just like that. Okay. Again, make sure that your end is even, and then we'll screw this side together. Okay, now we can slide this side into place. Now the last thing to do here is throw a couple screws in the baffle here. You can see here's the air gap that's going to allow the air to flow through. But you really only need like a couple screws just to hold that thing in place. It's pretty stiff in there. It probably would never move on its own, but for now we're just going to put a couple in there to hold it in place, and then Then we'll get on to building the ends. Now we can move on to the ends. The first end's going to be a solid end, so we're just going to put pieces the whole way around, and then we can install that on the cabinet. Okay, check that out. Now you can install this on the end of the cabinet. Okay, so now we're going to get the end piece on. That's going to have your filter and everything else on it. Funny thing, I just ran out of screws, so I went out and got some new screws, and of course they were out of the size I needed. They had everything else except the size I needed. So I got some 3/4 inch long screws, and I just am going to swap out where I need the shorter screws with the pieces that I've already done. On these corner pieces, these are thick enough that the screw can actually go through. A 3/4 inch screw will actually go into the other side, so no big deal there, but that's just how it goes. So anyway, I have this is going to be the baffle end, and this is a PowerTech piece. They make a lot of dust collection pieces. That's where I got a lot of my hoses and gates and whatnot. And this particular part is 70132V as in Victor. It's not super cheap, but it's easier than printing it out. So it's got a 4-inch outlet, and what we got to do is cut a hole in this piece for the air to pass through, and the filter is going to go directly against this piece, and then this goes on top of the filter. So the filters I have are 14 by 14, and I just got these off Amazon real cheap. I think they're like $7 for 2. So I drew an outline of the 14 by 14 filter, and then I stepped in. We're going to do a 12 by 12 cutout here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out using my trusty battery circular saw. It's going to work great. And we'll be back. So we got the hole cut out with the circular saw, but I got to come back and finish off these corners. Ta-da! So now we can go ahead and put the frame together. These pieces are all lettered as well. And you'll see there's 2 pieces that have a countersink screw here, and that is for the end. So D is in David and E is in Echo. And then you have 2 each of the other ones. So there's a G there, there's an F there, an F here, and a G here. So what we want to do is there's these through holes here, and we're going to screw down through with our flatheads and make this nice and square. So I'm going to start up here in this corner. Just start up here in this corner. Try and keep that as square as possible. Then we have these filler pieces as well. So what we want to do is get those in place, make sure that matches up nice, and attach them as we go around as well. And we can test fit our filter. It's just like that. And then this will go right on top of there. So I'm just going to screw this fast. I think just like that. The last piece is this filler, J and K. It'll go in here just like that, and then we'll screw everything together just like that. And then we're going to put this piece on, and you could put like a sealant on here, but I don't really think it's necessary. I'm just going to come through here and attach this with some of these cabinet screws that I have. You could use any screws, but the key is you're going to have to like drill into this and just like drill pilot holes through, and try and avoid these holes, obviously. So what you can do is mark those off where you think they need to be. And we're going to put one here, 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 and anywhere in here, here, and here. I'm going to pre-drill these. Okay, now we can put our pieces around the outside. My last two are still printing, so we're going to take a short break. Well, that was a short break. Just finishing up. If you're ever wondering what was in these end cabinets on my nice toolbox, there you go. Got my 3D printer set up, some beverages. There we go. Okay, we're back at it. Let's finish this end off. All right, so we're back over here at the box. Keep in mind which end your filter's on. Here's your bottom for the air passageway to go through. So that's going to be, this will be my front side here, which I just realized I left the ugly piece of wood for the front, but oh well. It's a paint booth. It's gonna get paint on it probably. There we are. Got the end all attached, so I'm going to go ahead and put all the screws in these. Now you may notice now that our box has no opening. Well, I did that a little bit on purpose. When I started this project this morning, I didn't really want to run the saw and wake people up. It's later now, so I'm going to come back and cut the opening in. But you should do the opening probably ahead of time. But I'm going to go ahead and scribe some lines on here and saw cut the opening. The last thing we have to do here is install these little angle pieces on the inside, which is going to hold the screen up above the floor. Now, these pieces actually just sit right on top of the inner part of the outer frame, right like that. Somehow I messed up, and these ones that I have here, the lengths are wrong. So I'm going to cut these and make them fit. You should follow the print whenever I upload the print, and print the correct pieces out and put them where they go. And on the baffle side, let's see if I can show you this. On the baffle side here, this piece goes underneath. And when I was putting this together, you should have screwed this on before that end goes on. But I'm just going to screw it from this side, it'll be fine. But when you put it together, this part P, screw that onto your baffle before you put the end on. So. Okay, so there we have the inside supports for the mesh. Like I said, follow the print on these. These should go the whole length, but for now, this is how it's going to be. I spared you the effort of having to watch me with my male pattern baldness in here screwing all these in. So right here's your filter. I think one of the tweaks I'm going to make to this is I'm going to put a little finger notch in here to make this easier to get the filter out. So you'll see a change on that when the files are finally released here. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, well, here we are. As you can see, I got our mesh put in, and I've also installed LED light here, so check that out. And I got to do a little bit of hose work here, securing all that stuff down. And up here I have, that's the start switch for the fan itself. It takes a little bit to spool up, but you can kind of hear it in the background here. So does it work? Yeah, I think one way I can demonstrate it here is with some smoke. So I just lit this towel on fire here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's being drawn right down into there. Which is exactly what we want it to do. Pretty cool. And here we can do a little demonstration. I don't smell anything outside the booth. All the fumes went right out through the bottom, and that's exactly what I was looking for. So I would say if you're going to do the centrifugal fan setup, get the biggest fan you can afford. I have the 6-inch version, I'm sorry, the 8-inch version, and I think it's around 450 CFM, and I wouldn't go any less than that. But if you can afford to do a bigger fan, then by all means do it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's got a good amount of space in here. And just keep in mind that like your opening and is going to determine the size of your fan also. So if you do too big of an opening, your efficiency is going to go down. So there's some formulas out there for that. I'm not going to get into that too much. But for this 18-inch deep box by 18-inch tall with about a 16-inch by 20-inch opening, it works pretty well. So I think this is going to do exactly what I wanted to do in here. And yeah. So hopefully you guys got something out of this. You're not really interested in building a spray paint booth, but maybe it inspired you to make something else with these connectors and plywood, or design something of your own. that would be great too. I've made some adjustments to the drawings, and all the changes I've discussed earlier in the video as I was building it and things that I found. I've made those adjustments, and I have all of the STL files and an actual printer tray with all the files set up for Bamboo, and a PDF with the blueprints and an assembly instructions for what I built. I have them all compiled, and they'll be listed on Cults 3D. There'll be a link in this video. You can download that totally free. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do make one of these, post up in the comments and let me know how you make out. And we'll see you again next time.